Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the live studios here in Radha Lane in the middle of the Sangha. What do they call it? Kirtan Mela, the Kirtan Sangha. Huh?
Kirtan Fest.
The Kirtan Fest in Sri Sri Nilamadava's temple. And we have Indradumna Maharaj is here, and Govinda Maharaj, and Giriraj Maharaj, and Bhattahari Prabhu, and so many other great exalted souls to enliven us and warm our hearts with their company and their association. I wish you were here. But you are. When you hear the Srimad-Bhagavatam together with the devotees, you're there. Okay? So now we're going to hear the Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram from Sri Krishna Lila Stava, Srila Sanatan's classic glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvandoditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguru Man Mahadana Man Nishtadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayin Atini Chochata Kada Hanamunchagadachin Mam Premna Ritkanta Yospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. So here we are. Parikshit Maharaj has met Shukadeva Goswami. He came spontaneously, and everyone, all the great liberated souls that came to be with Maharaj Parikshit before he left his body, they all bowed down spontaneously to this 16-year-old boy who was walking naked around this seemingly aimlessly. Shows up right at the perfect instant, and all the great sages of the universe bowed down to him. And then Maharaj Parikshit asked him the question of all questions. What is the best thing a person should do when he's about to die? So now he's begun the instructions. And he started by explaining what it is that makes us so attached to this world. The fallible soldiers that we think are infallible. The body, the mind, the husband, the wife, the children, the family, the country, all the attachments of this material world. And we have to be powerful enough, brave enough to step away from them, at least inside. We have to detach ourselves inside. And because it's so difficult, he recommends that you walk away. But you don't have to walk away. if you can stay Krishna conscious in that situation. But now what he's doing is he's giving the very basic things about yoga. And it's progressive. It keeps getting progressive and more progressive. And it ends up, each time, each phase, it ends up saying, but the best thing is Harinam and hearing the Bhagavatam. Okay. Make our life a festival. Not that when the Kirtan Fest rolls into town, everybody gets ecstatic, and the rest of the time we're just la-da-da-da-da. It goes on, It's supposed to make every day like that. And that's what this does. Hare Krishna. Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 17. After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the three transcendental letters, A-U-M, and by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seed. Purport. Omkara, or the pranava, is the seed of transcendental realization. It is composed of the three transcendental letters, A-U-M. Chanting it within the mind, in conjunction with the breathing process, is a transcendental, mechanical way of getting into trance devised by great, experienced mystics. In this way, one is able to bring one's materially absorbed mind under control and change the habit of the mind. The mind is not to be killed. Mind or desire cannot be stopped. But to develop a desire to function for spiritual realization, one has to change the quality of engagement by the mind. The mind is the pivot of the active sense organs. And as such, if the quality of thinking, feeling, and willing is changed, naturally, the quality of actions by the instrumental senses will also change. Yes. Thank you. We have a whole bunch of people around here. We're going to have all kinds of sounds of Skype and... Oh, he was bringing Skype into the room. I see. All right. He's got a big grin on his face. Doctor, Hare Krishna. Of course, how can doctors turn off their phones? This is a dilemma. It's supposed to be on call all the time. Okay. The mind is not to be killed. That's a relief. Mind or desire cannot be stopped, but to develop a desire to function for spiritual realization, one has to change the quality of engagement by the mind. The mind is the pivot of the active sense organs. And as such, if the quality of thinking, feeling, and willing is changed, naturally, the quality of actions by the instrumental senses will also change. Omkara is the seed of all transcendental sound, and it is only the transcendental sound which can bring about the desired change of the mind and the senses. Even a mentally deranged man can be cured by treatment of transcendental sound. In the Bhagavad Gita, the pranava, Omkara, has been accepted as the direct, literal representation of the Supreme Absolute Truth. One who is not able to chant directly the holy name of the Lord, that's Hare Krishna, as recommended above, can easily chant the pranava, Omkara. This Omkara is a note of address, such as, "Oh my Lord." It's like if you're somebody that you want to get a hold of it at a distance, you get, "Hey!" Nowadays, that's what they say, "Hey, such and such," "Hey." And now it's getting down to just, "Hey." Right? Somebody walks in, "Hey." Right? So Om is like that. Om is like the hey, and the name is like the person. The Om is the sound representation of the person to get the attention of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, Om Ityatakshit Vyaharan Mamanusmurna means that if you remember Om at the time of death, while you're thinking about Krishna, then you can go back to Godhead. Okay, this Omkara is a note of address such as Oh my Lord. Just as Om Hari Om means Oh my Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we have explained before, the Lord's name, holy name is identical with the Lord Himself. So also is Omkara. But persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses, in other words, the neophytes, are trained in the practice of self-realization by this mechanical process of regulating the breathing function and simultaneously repeating the pranava, Omkara, within the mind. As we have several times expressed, since the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, and so on, of the personality of Godhead are impossible to understand with the present material senses, it is necessary that through the mind, the center of sensual activities, such transcendental realization be set into motion. The devotees directly fix their minds on the person of the Absolute Truth, but one who was unable to accommodate such personal features of the Absolute is disciplined in impersonality to train the mind to make further progress. Text 18. Gradually, as the mind becomes progressively spiritualized, withdraw it from sense activities, and by intelligence, the senses will be controlled. The mind, too absorbed in material activities, can be engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead and become fixed in full transcendental consciousness. Purport. The first process of spiritualizing the mind by mechanical chanting of the pranava, Omkara, and by control of the breathing system is technically called the mystic or yogic process of pranayama, or fully controlling the breathing air. The ultimate state of this pranayama system is to be fixed in trance, technically called samadhi. But experience has proved that even the samadhi stage also fails to control the materially absorbed mind. For example, the great mystic Vishwamitra Muni, even in the stage of samadhi, became a victim of the senses and cohabitated with Menaka. History has already recorded this. The mind, although ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, remembers past sensual activities from the subconscious status, and thus disturbs one from cent% engagement in transcendental, in self-realization. I'll read that again, it's very important. The mind, although ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, remembers past sensual activities from the subconscious status, and thus disturbs one from cent% engagement in self-realization. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami recommends the next step of assured policy, namely to fix one's mind in the service of the personality of Godhead. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also recommends this direct process in the Bhagavad Gita 6:47. Thus the mind, being spiritually cleansed, should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord by the different devotional activities of hearing, chanting, etc. If performed under proper guidance, that is the surest path of progress, even for the disturbed mind. Oh, the Supreme Director of the Krishna Fest has arrived. Get out the trumpets. And the local saint, Sarvabhauma Ji, in a grave. Nice try, though. It was a good try. You tried to make like it was going to make out like it was going to be grave. This is a very. I want to repeat this for Guru Bhakti and Sarva, because this is such a nice thing, isn't it? What we just heard. Listen to this. First of all, we heard about pranava, and the pranava, the omkara, is an address. It's like, I used the example just now, and everybody liked it, so I'm going to say it to you too, because you'll like it also. It's like if you see somebody from a distance, you go, hey, and then their name. And nowadays, in modern times, they just go, hey, or yo, you know. So it's the same, because the person, yeah, and then, even if you don't say the name, but if you can say, if you say Om, it's you're saying hey to Krishna. But if you say his name, it's nicer. Like if you come into a foreign airport, you know, and your ride doesn't show up, and you don't know how to speak the language, you don't have any money, you don't know how, you know what to do, and then all of a sudden you hear your name through the loudspeaker. You know, the person who's going to pick you up says, "Please, will such and such." It's like your heart, you just. It's very nice to hear your own name in a situation like that, you know. So it's like that. Everybody likes to hear their own name. And that's because Krishna likes to hear his name. Even better than hey, or yo, or whatever it is they say nowadays. I don't know, but it can be pretty crazy. So this is what Prabhupada has to say about that. The ultimate state of this pranayama system is to be fixed in trance. Technically called samadhi. But experience has proved that even the samadhi stage also fails to control the materially absorbed mind. For example, the great mystic Vishwamitra Muni, even in the stage of samadhi, became a victim of the senses and cohabitated with Menaka. History has already recorded this. The mind, although ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, remembers, listen to this, the mind, although ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, the mind, although remembers past sensual activities from the subconscious status, and thus disturbs one from cent% engagement in self-realization. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami recommends the next step of assured policy, namely, to fix one's mind in the service of the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also recommends this direct process in the Bhagavad Gita, 647. Thus, the mind being spiritually cleansed, one should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord by the different devotional activities of hearing, chanting, etc. If performed under proper guidance, that is the surest path of progress, even for the disturbed mind. So it's no excuse just to have an agitated mind, because everyone's got one. Everyone's got one. And even if you clean up your act right now and you're not doing anything wrong, from some previous lifetime either, what to speak of things that you can't remember that you did in this lifetime, it will sometimes come up. So unless you keep yourself engaged in the service of the Lord, in the service attitude, that will disturb you from complete devotional service. So disturbances of the mind that are coming from the past are not a reason to be so disturbed that you can't continue to serve. And if you continue to serve, eventually they will go farther and farther into the subconscious and they'll no longer bother you. Text 19. Thereafter, you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu, one after another, without being deviated from the conception of the complete body. Thus the mind becomes free from all sense objects. There should be no other thing to be thought upon, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is the ultimate truth. The mind becomes completely reconciled in Him only. So this is the reason for Archana. And that's why we have, wherever you go in our places, in our homes or in the temples or in our ashrams, we always, everywhere you see devotees of Krishna and pastimes of Krishna going on. Because it helps us, remember, helps keep our mind fixed. Purport. Foolish persons, bewildered by the external energy of Vishnu, do not know that the ultimate goal of the progressive search after happiness is to get in touch directly with Lord Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. Vishnu Tattva is an unlimited expansion of different transcendental forms of the personality of Godhead, and the supreme or original form of Vishnu Tattva is Govinda, or Lord Krishna, the supreme cause of all causes. Therefore, thinking of Vishnu or meditating upon the transcendental form of Vishnu, specifically upon Lord Krishna, is the last word on the subject of meditation. This meditation may be begun from the lotus feet of the Lord. One should not, however, forget or be misled from the complete form of the Lord. Thus, one should practice thinking of the different parts of his transcendental body, one after another. Here in this verse, it is definitely assured that the Supreme Lord is not impersonal. He is a person, but his body is different from the bodies of conditioned persons like us. Otherwise, meditation beginning from the pranava, omkara, up to the limbs of the personal body of Vishnu would not have been recommended by Shukadeva Goswami for the attainment of complete spiritual perfection. The Vishnu forms of worship in great temples of India are not, therefore, arrangements of idol worship, as they are wrongly interpreted to be by a class of men with a poor fund of knowledge. Rather, they are different spiritual centers of meditation on the transcendental limbs of the body of Vishnu. The worshipable deity in the temple of Vishnu is identical with Lord Vishnu by the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Therefore, a neophyte's concentration or meditation upon the limbs of Vishnu in the temple, as contemplated in the revealed scriptures, is an easy opportunity for meditation for persons who are unable to sit down tightly at one place and then concentrate upon pranava omkara, or the limbs of the body of Vishnu, as recommended herein by Shukadeva Goswami, the great authority. The common man can benefit more by meditating on the form of Vishnu in the temple than on the omkara, the spiritual combination of AUM, as explained before. There is no difference between omkara and the forms of Vishnu, but persons unacquainted with the science of the absolute truth try to create dissension by differentiating between them. Here it is indicated that the Vishnu form is the ultimate goal of meditation, and as such, it is better to concentrate upon the forms of Vishnu than on impersonal omkara. The latter process is more difficult than the former. Text 20. One's mind is always agitated by the passionate mode of material nature and bewildered by the ignorant mode of nature. But one can rectify such conceptions of the relation of Vishnu and thus become pacified by cleansing the dirty things created by them. Purport. Persons generally conducted by the modes of passion and ignorance cannot be bona fide candidates for being situated in the transcendental stage of God realization. Only persons conducted by the mode of goodness can have the knowledge of the supreme truth. Effects of the modes of passion and ignorance are manifested by too much hankering after wealth and women, and those who are too much after wealth and women can rectify their leanings only by constant remembrance of Vishnu in his material potency, his impersonal feature. Generally, the impersonalists or monists are influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance. Such impersonalists think of themselves as liberated souls, but they have no knowledge of the transcendental, personal feature of the Absolute Truth. Actually, they are impure in heart on account of being devoid of knowledge of the personal feature of the Absolute. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that after many hundreds of births, the impersonal philosopher surrenders unto the personality of Godhead. To acquire such a qualification of God realization in the personal feature, the neophyte impersonalist is given a chance to realize the relation of the Lord in everything by the philosophy of pantheism. Pantheism, in its higher status, does not permit the student to form an impersonal conception of the Absolute Truth, but it extends the conception of the Absolute Truth into the field of the so-called material energy. Everything created by the material energy can be dovetailed with the Absolute by an attitude of service, which is the essential part of living energy. The pure devotee of the Lord knows the art of converting everything into its spiritual existence by this service attitude. I'm going to repeat this. This is extremely important. Everything created by the material energy, which is the essential part of living energy, everything created by the material energy can be dovetailed with the Absolute by an attitude of service, which is the essential part of living energy. We'll let the conch shell of Maya go on her way. You forgot your notebook? Forgot your notebook?
I was writing poems yesterday.
Okay. The pure devotee of the Lord knows the art of converting everything into its spiritual existence by this service attitude. And only in that devotional way can the theory of pantheism be perfected. 21. O King, by this system of remembrance, and by being fixed in the habit of seeing the all-good personal conception of the Lord, one can very soon attain devotional service to the Lord under His direct shelter. I hope that everyone already does this, but I'll just give you another hint. You know, in Shastra it says that the form of the Lord, whether it's in marble or stone or jewels or paint or mental energy in the mind, if you can meditate, if you can visualize. Some people can, some people can't. But if you can do that. And now what do we have? We have pixels. So what it means is that on your screen, if you keep the form of the Lord all the time on your phone, then you can do transcendental meditation. Every time you open your phone and you see a form of Krishna, it is not different than the form. It's not different than the deity. Everywhere. Okay. O King, by this system of remembrance, and by being fixed in the habit of seeing the all-good personal conception of the Lord, one can very soon attain devotional service to the Lord under His direct shelter. Purport. Success of mystic performances is achieved only by the help of the devotional attitude. Pantheism, or the system of feeling the presence of the Almighty everywhere, is a sort of training of the mind to become accustomed to the devotional conception. And it is this devotional attitude of the mystic that makes possible the successful termination of such mystic attempts. One is not, however, elevated to such a successful status without mixing in a tinge of devotional service. The devotional atmosphere created by pantheistic vision develops into devotional service in later days, and that is the only benefit for the impersonalist. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 12.5 that the impersonal way of realization is more troublesome because it reaches the goal in an indirect way, although the impersonalist also becomes obsessed with the personal feature of the Lord after a long time. Somebody knows the verse? I'll give you a hint. Bahonam. You got it. No wonder they pay you the big bucks. Text 22. The fortunate King Parikshit. Okay, we'll give you more bucks if you can give us the translation.
After many births, the transcendentalist, Vasudeva realizes that somehow...
Jnana. After many births of cultivating knowledge. Go ahead.
That such a person is very rare who understands the personality of God.
The person comes to the stage of accepting there's nothing but Krishna.
I can't do the translation.
That's good. No, you got it. You got the idea. It's there. The proper conception's there. It doesn't make any difference if you can memorize it exactly or not. If you have the conception, that's it. That's all that's necessary. Okay. Fortunate King Parikshit, inquiring further, said, O Brahmana, please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied, and how the conception can be fixed, so that the dirty things in a person's mind can be removed. And there it is, in black and white. Read it again. Everything is here in these books. Everything you need to know how to become perfect. Thus, the fortunate King Parikshit inquiring further, said, O Brahmana, please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied, and how the conception can be fixed, so that the dirty things in a person's mind can be removed. Wouldn't that be nice? Purport. The dirty things in the heart of a conditioned soul are the root cause of all troubles for him. A conditioned soul is surrounded by the manifold miseries of material existence. But on account of his gross ignorance, he is unable to remove the troubles due to dirty things in the heart, accumulated during the long prison life in the material world. He is actually meant to serve the will of the Supreme Lord, but on account of the dirty things in the heart, he likes to serve his concocted desires. These desires, instead of giving him any peace of mind, create new problems, and thus bind him to the cycle of repeated birth and death. These dirty things of fruitive work and empiric philosophy can be removed only by association with the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna. The Lord, being omnipotent, can offer his association by his inconceivable potencies. Thus, persons who are unable to pin their faith on the personal feature of the Absolute are given a chance to associate with his Virat Rupa, or the cosmic, impersonal feature of the Lord. The cosmic, impersonal feature of the Lord is a feature of his unlimited potencies. Since the potent and potencies are identical, even the conception of his impersonal cosmic feature helps the conditioned soul to associate with the Lord indirectly, and thus gradually rise to the stage of personal contact. Maharaj Parikshit was already directly connected with the personal feature of Lord Sri Krishna, and as such he had no need to inquire from Shukadeva Goswami about where and how to apply the mind in the impersonal Virat Rupa of the Lord. But he inquired after a detailed description of the matter for the benefit of others who are unable to conceive of the transcendental personal feature of the Lord as the form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. The non-devotee class of men cannot think of the personal feature of the Lord. Because of their poor fund of knowledge, the personal form of the Lord, like Rama or Krishna, is completely revolting to them. They have a poor estimation of the potency of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:11, it is explained by the Lord himself that people with a poor fund of knowledge deride the Supreme Personality of the Lord, taking him to be a common man. Such men are ignorant of the inconceivable potency of the Lord. By the inconceivable potency of the Lord, he can move in human society or any other society of living beings, and yet remain the same omnipotent Lord, without deviating in the slightest from his transcendental position. So, for the benefit of men who are unable to accept the Lord in his personal eternal form, Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami how to fix the mind on him in the beginning, and the Goswami replied in detail as follows. Text 23. Shukadeva Goswami answered, one should control the sitting posture, regulate the breathing process by the yogic pranayama, and thus control the mind and senses with intelligence. Apply the mind, and thus control the mind and senses, and with intelligence, apply the mind to the gross potencies of the Lord called the Virat Rupa. Purport. The materially absorbed mind of the conditioned soul does not allow him to transcend the limit of the bodily conception of self. And thus, the yoga system for meditation, controlling the sitting posture and breathing process by fixing the mind upon the Supreme, is prescribed in order to mold the character of the gross materialist. Unless such materialists are able to cleanse the materially absorbed mind, it is impossible for them to concentrate upon thoughts of transcendence. And to do so, one may fix one's mind on the gross material or external feature of the Lord. The different parts of the gigantic form of the Lord are described in the following verses. The materialistic men are very anxious to have some mystic powers as a result of such a controlling process, but the real purpose of yogic regulations is to eradicate the accumulated dirty things like lust, anger, avarice, and all such material contaminations. If the mystic yogi is diverted by the accompanying feats of mystic control, then his mission of yogic success is a failure. Because the ultimate aim is God realization, he is therefore recommended to fix his gross materialistic mind by a different conception and thus realize the potency of the Lord. As soon as the potencies are understood to be instrumental manifestations of the transcendence, one automatically advances to the next step, and gradually the stage of full realization becomes possible for him. 24. This gigantic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is the personal body of the Absolute Truth, wherein the universal resultant past, present, and future of material time is experienced. Purport. Anything, either material or spiritual, is but an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 13:14, the omnipotent Lord has his transcendental eyes, heads, and other bodily parts distributed everywhere. He can see, hear, touch, or manifest himself anywhere and everywhere, for he is present everywhere as the Supersoul of all the infinitesimal souls, although he has his particular abode in the Absolute World. The relative world is also his phenomenal representation, because it is nothing but an expansion of his transcendental energy. Although he is in his abode, his energy is distributed everywhere, just as the sun is localized as well as expanded everywhere, since these rays of the sun, being non-different from the sun, are accepted as expansions of the sun disk. In the Vishnu Purana 122:56, it is said that as fire expands its rays and heat from one place, similarly, the Supreme Spirit, the Personality of Godhead, expands himself by his manifold energy everywhere and anywhere. The phenomenal manifestation of the gigantic universe, Virat Rupa, is only a part of his body. Less intelligent men cannot conceive of the transcendental, all-spiritual form of the Lord, but they are astounded by his different energies, just as the Aborigines are struck with wonder by the manifestation of lightning, a gigantic mountain, or a hugely expanded banyan tree. The Aborigines praise the strength of the tiger and the elephant because of their superior energy and strength. The Asuras cannot recognize the existence of the Lord, although there are vivid descriptions of the Lord in the revealed scriptures. Although the Lord incarnates and exhibits his uncommon strength and energy, and although he is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by learned scholars and saints like Vyasadeva, Narada, Asita, and Devala in the past, and by Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, and also by the Acharyas like Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, and Lord Sri Chaitanya in the modern age. The Asuras do not accept any evidential proof from the revealed scriptures, nor do they recognize the authority of the great Acharyas. They want to see with their own eyes at once. Therefore they can see the gigantic body of the Lord as Virat, which will answer their challenge. And since they are accustomed to paying homage to superior material strength, like that of the tiger, elephant, and lightning, they can offer respect to the Virat Rupa. Lord Krishna, by the request of Arjuna, exhibited his Virat Rupa for the Asuras. A pure devotee of the Lord, being unaccustomed to looking into such a mundane, gigantic form of the Lord, requires special vision for this purpose. The Lord therefore favored Arjuna with special vision for looking into his Virat Rupa, which is described in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This Virat Rupa of the Lord was especially manifested, not for the benefit of Arjuna, but for that unintelligent class of men who accept anyone and everyone as an incarnation of the Lord, and so mislead the general mass of people. For them, the indication is that one should ask the cheap incarnation to exhibit his Virat Rupa and thus be established as an incarnation. The Virat Rupa manifestation of the Lord is simultaneously a challenge to the atheist and a favor for the Asuras, who can think of the Lord as Virat and thus gradually cleanse the dirty things from their hearts in order to become qualified to actually see the transcendental form of the Lord in the near future. This is a favor of the all-merciful Lord to the atheists and the gross materialists. Text 25. The gigantic universal form of the personality of Godhead within the body of the universal shell, which is covered by sevenfold material elements is the subject for the Virat conception. Purport. Simultaneously, the Lord has multifarious other forms, and all of them are identical with the original fountainhead form of the Lord, Sri Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, it has been proven that the original transcendental and eternal form of the Lord is Sri Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead. But by his inconceivable internal potency, Atmamaya, he can expand himself by multifarious forms and incarnations simultaneously, without being diminished in his full potency. He is complete, and although innumerable complete forms emanate from him, he is still complete, without any loss. That is his spiritual or internal potency. In the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, manifested his Virat Rupa just to convince the less intelligent class of men who cannot conceive of the Lord as appearing just like a human being, that he factually has the potency of his claim to be the supreme absolute person, without any rival or superior. Materialistic men can think, although very imperfectly, of the huge universal space, comprehending innumerable planets as big as the sun. They can see only the circular sky overhead, without any information of this universe, as well as many other hundreds of thousands of universes, and are each covered by sevenfold material coverings of water, fire, air, sky, ego, noumenon, and material nature, just like a huge football, pumped and covered, floating on the water of the causal ocean, wherein the Lord is lying as the Mahavishnu. All the universes in seed are emanating from the breathing of Mahavishnu, who is but part of a partial expansion of the Lord. And all the universes presided over by the Brahmas vanish when the Mahavishnu withdraws his great breath. In this way, the material worlds are being created and vanished by the supreme will of the Lord. One can just imagine how ignorant is the poor foolish materialist who simply on the allegations of a dying man puts forward an insignificant creature to become the Lord's rival incarnation. The Virat Rupa was particularly exhibited by the Lord just to give lessons to such foolish men, so that they can accept a person as an incarnation of Godhead only if the person is able to exhibit such a Virat Rupa as Lord Krishna did. The materialistic person may concentrate his mind upon the Virat, or gigantic form of the Lord, in his own interest, and as recommended by Shukadeva Goswami, but he must be on his guard not to be misled by pretenders who claim to be the identical person as Lord Krishna, but are not able to act like him or exhibit the Virat Rupa, comprehending the whole of the universe. Text 26. Persons who have realized it, have studied that the planets known as Patala constitute the bottoms of the feet of the universal Lord, and the heels and the toes are the Risatala planets. The ankles are the Mahatala planets, and his shanks constitute the Talatala planets. Purport. Outside the bodily existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the manifested cosmic existence has no reality. Everything and anything of the manifested world rests on him, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4. But that does not imply that everything and anything in the vision of a materialist is this Supreme Personality. The conception of the universal form of the Lord gives a chance to the materialist to think of the Supreme Lord. But the materialist must know for certain that his visualization of the world in a spirit of lording it over, or lording over it, is not God realization. The materialistic view of exploitation of the material resources is occasioned by the illusion of the external energy of the Lord. And as such, if anyone wants to realize the supreme truth by conceiving of the universal form of the Lord, he must cultivate the service attitude. He must cultivate what?
The service attitude.
Just checking to see if everybody's still here. By cultivating the service attitude. I'll repeat that again. The materialistic view of exploitation of the material resources is occasioned by the illusion of the external energy of the Lord. And as such, if anyone wants to realize the supreme truth by conceiving of the universal form of the Lord, he must cultivate the service attitude. Unless the service attitude is revived, the conception of Virat realization will have very little effect on the seer. The Transcendental Lord, in any conception of his form, is never a part of the material creation. He keeps his identity as Supreme Spirit in all circumstances, and is never affected by the three material qualities, for everything material is contaminated. The Lord always exists in his internal energy. The universe is divided into 14 planetary systems. 7 planetary systems called Bur, Burbar, Swar, Mahar, Janas, Tapas, and Satya are upward planetary systems, one above the other. There are also 7 planetary systems downward, known as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala, gradually one below the other. In this verse, the description begins from the bottom because it is in the line of devotion that the Lord's bodily description should begin from his feet. Shukadeva Goswami is a recognized devotee of the Lord, and he is exactly correct in the description. Text 27. The knees of the universal form are the planetary system of the name Sutala, and the 2 thighs are the Vitala and Atala planetary systems. The hips are Mahitala, and the outer space is the depression of his navel. 28. The chest of the original personality of the gigantic form is the luminary planetary system. His neck is the Mahar planets. His mouth is the Janas planets. His forehead is the Tapas planetary system. The topmost planetary system, known as Satyaloka, is the head of him who has 1,000 heads. Purport. The effulgent luminary planets, like the sun and the moon, are situated almost in the midpoint of the universe, and as such they are to be known as the chests of the original gigantic form of the Lord. And above the luminary planets, called also the heavenly places of the universal directorate demigods, are the Mahar, Janas, and Tapas planetary systems. And above all, the Satyaloka planetary system, where the chief directors of the modes of material nature reside, namely Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. This Vishnu is known as the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, and he acts as the supersoul in every living being. There are innumerable universes floating on the causal ocean, and in each of them, the representation of the Virat form of the Lord is there, along with innumerable suns, moons, heavenly demigods, Brahmas, Vishnus, and Shivas, all of them situated in one part of the inconceivable potency of the Lord Krishna, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 10:42. so we'll stop there and go on hearing about the Virat Rupa, which Prabhupada sometimes termed the external body of the Lord. It's called the external body of the Lord because it's formed of the external energy, which is the transformation of his impersonal energy. And therefore, and we'll read further on that it's therefore an imaginary form. It's not that if you looked from a distance, you'll see, Krishna standing there like this, with the, all the planets. It's not like that. But the conception is there to give the mind opportunity to become accustomed to thinking of the form of the Lord and then there'll be more intimate details given soon about what the actual parts of like the trees and the clouds and the rivers these are all likened to different parts of the body, like the clouds or the hairs in the head. The trees and plants are like the vegetation or like the hairs on the body. The rivers are like the veins running through the body. And like that, you can begin to conceive the personal aspects of the Lord through this kind of meditation. And it's especially recommended for those who are very materialistic by nature, by habit. Just a second. Hannah's got her hand up, but I want to figure out what time it is here. Okay, now it's time for reflections. Unusually, Hannah's got a question. We're going to call her the question machine. Go ahead.
What planetary system is the Earth in?
It's in the Bur. Burvar. It's in the middle. Burvar Swa. Planet Earth is in the middle. Therefore, it says above and below.
There's, you read also that there's seven something material. What does gnomon mean?
Knowing? What does knowing mean?
Gnomon.
Oh, nomen. Nominal. Phenomenal and nominal. Internal or subtle and external. Prabhupada used phenomenal and nominal, and the editors changed it to numinous because that's more. In English, it's more correct, and Prabhupada appreciated it. So I'll give you the numinous.
I think she's referring to the 7 layers.
Yeah.
I know. Numinous, having a strong religious or spiritual quality, indicating or suggesting the presence of a divinity. The strange numinous beauty of this ancient landmark. So the numinous quality of something is the divine quality or the metaphysical quality. Like you can say the beauty of the tree, but then there's another beauty of the tree that's beyond just the green leaves and this and that. It's existential. It's a personality. It's a living being. It's part of the supreme energy of the Lord. This is numinous characteristics. And nominal, which is the word you're talking about, right? How do you spell it? Huh?
N-O-U-M.
Say that again. N?
It's in the purport of 25.
Yes. This is a philosophical concept or term. A thing as it is in itself, as distinct from a thing that is knowable by the senses through phenomenal attributes.
Whoa, reread that.
And it's the same as I just said. This may be a little bit complicated. In simple language, simpler language, it's the same idea I just said. The tree, externally, you can define it as, having roots and this and that, and it has a function, it takes water and it gives flowers and this and that. But there's a nomina, there's a nominal, that's the phenomena that you see with your senses, but then there's a nominal or a numinous definition, which is, it's a living being, it's a part of the creation, it's a part and parcel of the whole. That's a more metaphysical way of looking at it and defining it. Then I'll read in the English again the definition and you'll see it more clearly. A thing as it is in itself, as distinct from a thing as it is knowable by the senses through phenomenal attributes.
That's pretty deep.
Well, that's why you're here. That's why you're here, to turn up the voltage.
There are only 14 systems.
Well, the systems can be divided in different ways. It says 3, it says 14. In other words, there's other ways of looking at it, but it's talking about the same thing. Hare Krishna.
So, I have a question again.
Yes, doctor. We have somebody else, because she'll just, she'll take all the energy in the room if you let her. So go ahead.
Just Maharaj, like a thought came in my mind about when listening to the description of Virat Rupa, looking at the Bhagavad Gita as it is book, and they have slides, and one picture is of Virat Rupa. That's artistic way of
Representation.
Yeah. So looking at that, like I have like very different thought about the Virat Rupa, and when listening this, it's like different thought about Virat Rupa. And now I'm thinking like, how even are you able to look at it? Because if you have
Pashyama Yogamashwaram. Pashyama Yogamashwaram. What does that mean? Pashyama Yogamashwaram. I'll give you divine vision so that you can see it. You can't see it with your material eyes. These eyes cannot see this vision. Therefore, Krishna gives Arjuna divine eyes, and he is allowed to see, by Krishna's supreme mystic power, everything that exists and all of its relationship while he's sitting in one place in the whole universe. That's what the universal form is. It's the vision to see how Krishna is everywhere, how Krishna is entered into the material world in every atom of the universe. And we may not be able to see it through a mystic vision like that, but we can see it partially, depending on our depth of our realization and faith, by the descriptions of Virat Rupa in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So we shouldn't worry that we can't see that. Actually, you'd be in trouble if you could see that, because then you'd be scared stiff, just as Arjuna was. After he saw it, he said, "Whoa, I'm out of here! Stop it! Stop it!" And he almost fainted. And then Krishna, then he asked Krishna, "Please, show me your personal form." And then he did. First of all, his four-arm form, then his two-arm form, his original form. The impersonalists, especially those of you from India, you'll hear this all the time. Well, the universal form must be the source, because from the universal form, Arjuna wanted to see the two-hand form, so therefore the universal form must be the source of the two-hand form, but it's just the opposite. The reason he became peaceful was because he was looking at the original form. From whom the universal form proceeds. Therefore, your mind becomes happy and peaceful when you see the personal form of Krishna. And if you can't see the original spiritual form of Krishna with your mundane eyes, you can see the deity, you can hear this Bhagavatam, and you can appreciate that Krishna is there in this sound, and he's there in that form. His holy name. Hare Krishna. Yes, Sarva.
Pantheism is good for people at a certain stage, but it is not. There's limitations also.
Pantheism, when one thinks that everything is God, is good unless one misapplies it or misunderstands that therefore I can worship this as God and get the same result as worshipping the form of God, Krishna.
So it's good at a certain stage, but it's not complete. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's relatively good, relative to a person who's completely ignorant and doesn't think of anything, like an animal. Prabhupada said very clearly, and it says in the Vedas, that unless you can think and question why you're suffering, then you're an animal. And if your field of activities is limited and your desires are limited just to eating, sleeping, mating, and offending, then you're an animal. So it's better if a person's like an animal to think of, pantheism, because it begins the philosophical conception of things, begins to think beyond just the gross material energy being, my lunch or my dinner or my next enjoyment or my whatever.
Krishna says everything is spark of my splendor, and people appreciate some.
Well, that was particularly an answer to to Arjuna's question. He's saying, I'm going to explain to you the details, but only the basics, because the details are unlimited. And you can't understand the unlimited details, so I will give you a representation of them and you can understand something.
This is so helpful.
Well, thanks. It is.
This is so great.
It is.
Actually,
It's the Srimad-Bhagavatam.
this part about the cosmic impersonal feature, I think for my generation, this is like the most prominent. Everybody keeps talking about the universe, the universe, the universe. Literally with 2 sentences.
Exactly.
It's just annihilated.
Exactly. It's understood and discarded.
And there's so
It's
much
something along the way. Then we can go on to find out the details and the depth of the thing. Superficial.
Because just as Arjuna was disturbed, everyone else with that conception is also disturbed.
Yeah, that's why I always point to Gopi Puranadana Prabhu's one of the part of the definition of the different levels of devotees is a kanista or a neophyte devotee serves out of fear. And the madhyam or the medium devotee who can discriminate, who has knowledge and can see more what's going on, he serves out of duty and gratitude. And the uttamadhikari, the advanced devotee, serves out of love. Because he sees, all these things have been given me for free. These eyes, I went to the optometrist today and he brought out this little model of the eye and began to explain to me what's going on in the different parts. It was amazing. And plus he was very good, he knew his stuff. Just one little part of this human body is so complex. Not only that, one cell, each cell of the human body is more complex than Houston. They're still studying to try to understand. Isn't it we have a doctor in a house? 2 doctors. Isn't it true? They're still trying to understand the workings of the cell. It's so complex. Yes, Bhakti John.
I don't want to beat this point, but just yes or no.
Yes or no? Okay, this guy's getting to the essence. Let's go.
I'm trying to grab this point. The Newman, is that what I look at and I see, but when I look at it, I'm perceiving what I see, but it's really something else?
No, you're seeing the phenomena, and what you're not seeing is your conception of how it fits and what it is as an entity.
Okay, it's not like when I see it, it's making like a photographic image in my head, but it's not really that.
That's right. But there's more to the tree than that.
Right.
What's its function? How does it fit into the ecosystem?
Its whole totality in life.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So now I'm going to read that definition again, and now you'll see, I think, a little more clearer. Now that you noumena, a thing as it is in itself, as distinct from a thing that as it is knowable by the senses through phenomenal attributes. So the tree, the leaves of the tree, the flower, the fruit, the twigs, the branches, the roots, that's the phenomenal. That's the phenomena of the tree. And the noumena of the tree is something more. It's a living being. It has an existence within the ecosystem. It does certain things that you can't perceive directly, like it's taking away the impure air and giving out oxygen.
Things you can't visually see
Yes.
that are going on.
Yes, it's a term that was brought out in Kantian philosophy. A thing as it is in itself, as distinct from a thing as it is knowable by the senses through phenomenal attributes.
Snake in a rope thing, right?
That's the definition of illusion. That's different.
You could
That's phenomenon. That's not phenomenal and numinous.
You could.
That's not phenomenal and numinous. That's different.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
See
please.
a tree but not understand it properly.
Yeah, you can see the phenomenon of the tree and not understand what it is. The noumena is what it is. Phenomenal is what you see, and what you taste, and what you feel. But the tree is more than that.
That definition as it is in itself.
And therefore, when we talk about the universal form, we'll talk about the tree as being the hairs of the universal form of the universal form. And that concept will help the mind begin to conceive of a personal aspect. That's the help that an atheist or an impersonalist can get from that kind of conception. It makes them accustomed to thinking of something beyond what we see in terms of being parts of a higher reality.
Start to break your brain out of the materialistic way.
Yes, we get out the high voltage and just put the and zap it, 1,000 volts, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, that's right, I got it.
I'm very materialistic, so I'm trying to break out of that, that's for
John,
sure.
you're more spiritual than you think you are. Hare Krishna. All right, thank you very much. Everyone out there in cyberspace, thanks very much for coming and hearing. These are really fundamental and beautiful concepts that if we grasp them and can apply them and see the world through them, then we can become transcendently situated. We can go in the right direction. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda ki jai, Shukadev Goswami ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Hari